of Education to order. This is our business meeting. It is being conducted in a hybrid fashion. Meeting is also live streamed by the county channel. Requests for public comment participation will be accepted between 5 and 5:30 p.m. by sending an email with your name, phone number, and topic to Robin Cushenberry at Beaufort.k12.sc.us. You will receive a phone call during public comments where you will be able to speak and address the board for a maximum of 3 minutes on issues within the board's domain. The forum will be limited to 30 minutes. If you are in person, you may address the board for a maximum of 3 minutes on issues within the board's domain. Each speaker must fill out a public comment card. Please see the board clerk for a card. Requests for the second public comments will be accepted between 7 and 7:30 in the same manner as above. Second public comments will take place prior to adjournment, no later than 9 p.m. Second forum will be limited to 15 minutes. In the event the board has not finished addressing all items listed on tonight's agenda, we will reconvene tomorrow, the next business day, to finish the agenda items. It is my job to make sure that we don't do that. Okay, our first order of business is executive session. Do we have a motion? Dr. Quaz?
Thank you, Chairman Stribinger. I move that the Board of Education go into executive session for the following matters. 1, employment matter regarding the personal ratification report and discussion of employment, appointment, promotion, compensation pursuant to South Carolina Code Annals Section 3470A1. 2, receipt of information related to safety and security pursuant to South Carolina Code Annals Section 3420C. 3, discussion of negotiations incident to propose St. Helena Elementary School for gym entry canopy, contract amendment number 29 to Ajax Building Company, LLC, pursuant to South Carolina Code Annals Section 3478-2. And lastly, discussion of negotiations incident to proposed Bluffton High School for the remaining safety security scope contract amendment number 23 with MB Construction Company, Incorporated, pursuant to South Carolina Code Annals Section 3470A2.
Okay, I have a second. Earl Campbell's second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ingrid, did you aye?
I said aye.
Oh.
I said it quietly to myself.
Okay.
Aye.
Go on.
Aye. Middleton.
Thank you.
There's an echo.
So we are unanimous, Robin. There's feedback coming from somewhere.
Mr. Chair, unfortunately, we could not hear everything that Dr. Watts said on this end. We can hear you now, but there's a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, I was wondering, I heard that feedback. I was wondering.
The feedback's coming from the other room.
Well, my thing's echoing.
I noticed also I don't think my mic's that loud.
So do you need to repeat?
Yes, you want me to go again?
Would you like her to repeat that, Angela?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay.
I move that the Beaufort County Board of Education go into executive session, and I'm going to stop and ask you, can you hear that?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Well, or not really?
You are coming through very well. It's
Okay,
clear.
thank you. I'll continue. So the reasons for executive session are 1, employment matter regarding personal ratification report and discussion of employment, appointment, promotion, compensation pursuant to South Carolina Code Annals Section 3470A1. 2, receipt of information related to safety and security pursuant to South Carolina Code Annals Section 3420C. 3, discussion of negotiations incident to propose St. Helena Elementary School for gym entry canopy contract amendment number 29 to Ajax Building Company LLC pursuant to South Carolina Code Annals Section 3470A2. And 4, discussion of negotiations incident to propose Bluffton High School for the remaining safety security scope contract amendment number 23 with MB Construction Company Incorporated pursuant to South Carolina Code Annals Section 3470A2.
Okay, let's move into executive session. We've already voted on it. discussed in executive session?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the superintendent's recommendations for employment listed on the July 1st to August 31st, 2022 personnel ratification report.
Second? Dr. Wise, second. Any discussion? Mr. Smith?
Being that I was not in there, I will be abstaining from the vote.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Angela? Have I lost Angela?
She's not on yet.
Oh, okay. And Mr. Smith abstains.
And Ms. Boatright, down here at this end.
I'm sorry.
I abstained as well.
Oh, and Ms. Boatright abstains.
Wisniewski abstains.
So we don't know about Angela and Deborah.
So I have Ms. Middleton absent.
Boatright abstains, Smith abstain.
And Wisniewski.
For a minute, not like that.
Okay?
Got it.
What was the, I don't know what.
All I know is there were 2 abstains.
Three,
One absent.
three abstentions.
Who else abstained?
Dr.
Oh, Dr. Wisniewski abstained also, I'm sorry.
All right, that motion passes. The next motion, Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the superintendent's recommendation to employ Lucia Melito O'Brien as Director of Transportation.
Second, Ms. Fidrich? Okay. Discussion? Mr. Smith?
I will definitely be abstaining.
I'm sorry.
I said I will be abstaining. I did not get the background on that, so I will abstain from that
Right.
vote.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who seconded the motion?
I did. Ms. Goodrich.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Middleton, aye.
Mr. Melchiam?
Aye.
Aye. And Mr. Smith abstains.
I abstain.
Wisniewski also abstaining.
I'm sorry.
Abstaining.
And Dr. Wisniewski also.
The vote passes 9-0-2. All right, continuing on, I move that the Board of Education approve Amendment Number 23 with MB Con Construction for the remaining safety security work at Bluffton High School based on the guaranteed maximum price of $2,073,671.
I second.
I'm sorry. Ingrid?
Yeah, I
You
second.
Okay. Ms. Boatright, second. Okay. Any discussion? Mr. Smith?
On this is the finishing piece to the, and this is also part of
Mr. Chair, I apologize. Pardon the interruption. We can't hear anything. The audio is terrible. It's breaking up.
I second that. Same stuff.
Okay. We will try to speak louder, but it might be a technical thing. All right. Try, Mr. Smith.
For clarity, I'm asking, is this the finishing the last piece in terms of technology for Bluffton High School? Is that what this is? And is this also a part of the referendum? A part of the safety and security?
Yes.
And for the people who could not hear, Mr. Auden in the background said, yes, it is a part of the referendum of part of the safety and security. Thank you for the information. Thank you for clarity.
Colonel Geyer and Ms. Middleton are sending messages that nothing is audible.
Well, we need
That
to
was
try to
all right.
resolve that because they can't vote intelligently if they can't hear what we're doing.
Bite your tongue.
Colonel Geyer? Nope. Yeah, obviously, he didn't turn his head.
Pardon me?
I said he didn't hear me because he didn't turn his head.
Put the fish back on.
This is cool.
Yeah, put the fish back on while we're waiting.
We can take a 5-minute recess, but I already went to the bathroom. These are really good.
Well,
Is there a baseball game we could watch in the meantime?
I've got lunch.
Yeah, I say we put on the baseball game.
Lunch.
Zoom meetings.
You sound good. Oh, yeah, exactly.
Is this our student of the month? Very exciting. Whole family's here. That's so nice. And the principal. That's right.
Try again.
I've tried to push for no more hybrid meetings.
Colonel Geyer, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
He can, he said. Okay. Is it better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right, let's try this motion again. I move that the Board of Education approve amendment number 23 with MB Con Construction for the remaining safety security work at Bluffton High School based on the guaranteed maximum price of $2,073,671.
I continue to second.
Okay. We're going to keep doing this till we get it right. Okay. Mr. Smith?
And I would ask the question, is this the final safety and security update for Bluffton High School, and is this the last thing that needs to be done? And is also this a part of the bond referendum?
Yes, sir, to both your questions.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that for clarity for the community.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Dyer, aye.
Middleton, aye.
Okay. Opposed? Abstain? Dr. Wisniewski abstains. Yay, motion passes 10-0-1. All right, you're on a hot streak.
Yep, let's go. Mr. Chairman, I move that the Board of Education approve amendment number 29 with Ajax Building Company for St. Helena Elementary School gym entry canopy based on the guaranteed maximum price of $376,873.
Tricia Fidrich, second. Discussion?
Yes, could we have, there's A and B. Could we have those on the screen so we can see which ones?
Well, the motion on the floor is for the option that she cited.
Okay, can we see what A is? Can we have A on the screen?
Can you pull that up, Robin?
This is B. This is B. Yeah.
I don't think you can bring up another motion when we have to dispose of this one.
Which one, you want A?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, the picture?
You want the picture displayed, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Okay. This is B.
That's A.
That's A. We want the one on the motion here.
He wanted this one.
Oh, no, the motion is
B.
for option B.
Motion is for option B. Is
All
that
right.
the picture? you
Yes,
would
ma'am.
like
That's
up?
the picture you want to put up.
And at this time, as we can see, this picture was not the picture that was discussed in a community meeting along with the community and the principal and my constituents. So this is a much more cheaper option, and not really that it's cheaper. We had, this is kind of building that's been pretty much been given to the district, and we have promised the people in this district something. Once again, we've come short. We've come short of it. We've got their hopes up, and we've promised them that they were going to get something compatible to the option A that people that we just saw that was missed and put up. So at this point in time, I just can't keep insulting my community and not giving them or not meeting them where what we tell them that we did, because they're looking for something, and this is kind of a Band-Aid on it. And once again, we're going to be pulling a scab off the Band-Aid because the community was looking for something, and this is what we're giving them, and I can't support that due to that's not what they were looking for or what they were
Ms.
promised.
Vidrich.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We all know that renderings are just ideas of what could be possible. It's not until you get the cost estimate and the reality of it. We cannot afford the other option. This is an elementary school. This is a very handsome entry for a gymnasium at an elementary school. I fully endorse this. It is going to be a beautiful addition to St. Helena Elementary School gym, and we can stay within budget with this.
Okay, no other hands. I have a question. Did we promise the community anything? Did we have a community meeting where we promised them something?
I would say no, sir, it wasn't a promise. No, we did not promise.
Okay, what was it?
Well, we showed them what we were looking at as an option, and we asked for feedback on what they thought about it, and what they
okay.
thought of that
All
option.
right,
So,
that makes sense to me. All right. I just want to make sure we didn't promise anybody anything before the numbers came in, because that's really not being fiscally responsible.
Well, I just have one more thing.
Yes, sir.
And I would say that the community seem to feel a little differently. And also, this is not the first thing in terms of this gym that has been cut down, because there were some other things that were in this gym too that was supposedly that the community would have gotten as well. So this is one of the other things that has been not a promise that have not been kept. So I would say that from my constituents, what I've gathered that this is the second thing, and that's not how they have perceived prior conversations with and those meetings with them and the staff. So I'm just putting it out there clear, because that's my understanding of it, and I just want to make sure that I'm representing and I'm stating how they feel. And I think that to some degree it is wrong. It's just to continuously just drag along to get along, and we give you at our convenience. This is one of those another shortcomings towards the community that we feel slighted once again. Thank you.
Mr. Earl Campbell.
Mr. Harding, what was cut out of the gym? Anything else that was supposed to go in gym was cut out of it?
not that what are you referring to, Mr. Smith?
I'm referring to the gym.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the scope of the project, everything that we,
The concession stand?
There was a concept where there was a concession
Okay.
stand area. Yes, that was removed. Initially, we did have a concession stand in the plan as an option, and that is not in this final version.
Okay. Is it normal to have a concession stand in the elementary gym?
No, sir, that's one of the reasons why it was taken away. It just, there wasn't a need for it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I don't see any more hands. Can we bring the motion back up, Robin? It's been so long, I kind of forgot it. Okay, there is the motion. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Guyer, aye.
Middleton, aye.
Mr. Earl Campbell? Aye? Okay, no? Mr. Smith is a no?
Yes, but no.
Abstain?
Abstain.
Dr. Wisniewski abstains. Motion passes 9-1-1.
Okay, last motion at this time. I move that the Beaufort County Board of Education authorize the superintendent to immediately terminate the Armed Security Guard Services contract with Security Solutions of America and use emergency procurement to secure new armed security guard services through June 30th, 2023, until a new company can be selected through the competitive bid process.
Second.
Dr. Quad, second. Did you get that, Robin? Okay. Dr. Quad, second. Discussion?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Smith?
Due to some concerns to coverage, I will not be able to support this this motion at this time. I have some concerns.
Let's not talk about coverage, that's a safety issue.
I just had some concerns, and that's why I left.
Well, you can have your concerns privately.
Well, I have some concerns, so therefore I'm not supporting this
Okay,
publicly.
okay, that's all you have to say. Any other? Okay, all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Middleton,
Mr.
aye.
Earl Campbell?
Guyer, aye.
Mr. Guyer's an aye. Ms. Middleton's an aye. Okay. Abstain? No?
Now I'm voting no.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mr. Smith is a no.
No.
I didn't mean to be abrupt with you, Mr. Smith, but that's just sensitive area. We don't want to talk about that stuff.
That concludes executive session motions.
Okay. Next item is approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Ms. Boatright
Second.
approves. Second, Dr. Wisniewski. All those in favor? Or, I'm sorry, discussion?
I'd like to remove, under consent agenda, as a separate item, the September 9 work session meeting minutes, since I was not able to attend that, and because I'd like to be able to vote on the rest of the consent agenda. So we can put that maybe under board business, just by itself, as not part of the consent agenda, and just do it separately.
Okay. Did you get that, Robin? That's a motion to remove that.
I don't think it has to be a motion. It's just if an individual member wants to move something out of consent agenda before the agenda is approved, we can do that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's
You're right.
okay.
You're
No problem.
absolutely right.
Thank you, David.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that
Guyer,
is
aye.
Angela.
Middleton, aye.
Okay, that is unanimous.
But what's up on the board is really not correct.
Yeah, it's not motion to approve the agenda, okay.
With the removal
With the
of
removal.
September 9th work session meetings from the consent agenda.
And placed under board business action.
Okay, I think that's what we approved. Okay, if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. If we could observe a moment of silence, please. All right, thank you. The media has been notified. That moves us to the student performance. We have Beaufort High School Sea Island Sound performing Go Fly Now, theme from Rocky, Can't Help Falling in Love, and the BHS Alma Mater under the direction of band director William Nichols.
On behalf of Beaufort High School and the Sea Island Sound, thank you for allowing us to perform for you this evening. My name is Peyton Nichols, Director of Instrumental Music at Beaufort High. Tonight we present 3 short selections for you. First is one of our favorite football pep tunes, Gonna Fly Now from the Rocky movie series. Second, we will On behalf of Beaufort High School and the Sea Island Sound, thank you for allowing us to perform for you this evening. My name is Peyton Nichols, Director of Instrumental Music at Beaufort High. Tonight we present 3 short selections for you. First is one of our favorite football pep tunes, Gonna Fly Now from the Rocky movie series. Second, we will give you a little taste of our halftime show titled To the Moon and Back. We hope the Elvis fans in the room enjoy. Finally, we will end with the BHS Alma Mater. Thank you again, and please enjoy the Beaufort High School Sea Island Sound.
There was a time in the board's history where we thought we should eliminate student performances because the meetings were running too long. This shows you why we didn't do it. Because everybody gets a smile. And it's good to have at least one time where you smile at the board meetings. Okay, points of celebration?
Thank you, Mr. Stribinger. I'm going to give you another reason to smile this evening under Character Ed for August, our student south of in southern Beaufort County. Our character education program was formed to support parents' efforts to develop good character in their children. Tonight, we're celebrating the Character Ed Student of the Month, exhibiting the character traits of friendship and kindness. Friendship is defined as the emotions or conduct of friends, the state of being friends, relationship, close relationship, attachment, mutual attachment, association, bond, tie, link, union. Kindness is defined as the quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. Kindliness, kind-heartedness, warm-heartedness, affection, warmth, gentleness, concern, and care. We're happy to announce that our Character Education Student of the Month for Southern Beaufort County for the month of August is Aaron Zavala, a 4th grade student at Hilton Head Island School for the Creative Arts. Here to tell us more about her student is School for Creative Arts Principal, Ms. Nikki Lucas.
Good evening. It is a pleasure and the highlight of my day to be here this evening with Aaron and his family to celebrate his kindness and his compassion. Aaron's been one of our students since 1st grade. He's now in 4th grade, and ever since he's been with our school, ever since I've known him, he is always someone that will greet you with the kindest smile in the hallway. And he has the outstanding ability to look for ways of helping others, whether it's fellow students and being successful in the classroom, or just smiling at staff in the hallway and giving encouragement to others. So he is a joy to have in our school. We're very proud of him. And congratulations, Aaron. And kudos, Mom and Dad, because you're raising a wonderful young man. So, Aaron.
Mr. Stribinger, that concludes our points of celebration this evening.
Thank you. That takes us to first public comments. Mr. David Cook.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, Dr. Rodriguez and staff. Thanks for giving me a chance to speak this evening. Constitution Day was September 17th. As far as I can see, only Hilton Head Island Elementary engaged the students in some type of program to learn about the Constitution on Friday, September 16th. Federal law requires schools that receive federal funds to engage their students in a lesson about the Constitution on Constitution Day or the week prior to or after when Constitution Day falls on a weekend. There are still 3 days left for all the schools in Beaufort County to have lessons about the United States Constitution. A special thank you to Ms. Brockway, Ms. Dewan, and all the teachers and staff at Hilton Head Island Elementary for working so hard to help the kids learn something about the Constitution last Friday. The kids were encouraged to wear colors, red, white, and blue, as a symbol of their support for the U.S. Constitution. And may I remind everyone that's listening that our Constitution comes with rights, duties, and responsibilities. And our Constitution is here for everyone that's in our country. Our Constitution needs to be reread. It does not need to be rewritten. On another note, yesterday around noon, I received a surprise visit from a school social worker and a parent liaison from the School for Creative Arts. I didn't know who these people were when they walked up to my front door, as they trespassed onto my property and invaded my privacy. 2 misdemeanor charges, one for trespassing and one for invasion of privacy. At this point, I really don't wish to press charges. I'm just looking for an explanation. I was told by the social worker the reason for the visit was because my enrollment for my son wasn't complete, which was completed the first week of September, if not earlier. The reason it showed up as not complete, even though my son has attended school every single day since the first day of school, was because I didn't consent to numerous items in the registration form online. There are consent items that require you to respond yes or no answer at all. And when you don't have a response of yes, it renders your registration incomplete. I thought I had discussed this a year ago and asked that it be revised to provide a no answer, but nothing was done. When I asked both principals of our elementary schools if it was district protocol to send a social worker to a student's home for an enrollment concern, I was reassured that this is not standard protocol. An apology was issued by both of them, and I'm thankful for that. I was told typically phone calls were made to the parents, emails are sent to the parents, and letters are sent home with the students. After asking other teachers in the state, I discovered there's only one reason why a social worker would come to my home in the middle of the day: welfare check. Okay? That doesn't make me feel very good. Someone in the district intentionally made the effort to notify someone that a social worker needed to be sent to my home. To this point, 9 people have carried the narrative, which is, in these exact words, is a really big mistake and there's a glitch in the system. I hope for God's sake that's the truth. When 9 people say the exact same thing, it's no longer considered to be true, it becomes an anomaly. I'm educated enough and I've talked to enough people to know that a social worker visiting a student's home has absolutely nothing to do with incomplete enrollment. I'm being targeted because I'm trying to protect my rights as a parent, my child's rights,
Mr. Cook, your
as well as
time
the
is
rights
up.
of other
Mr.
students
Cook,
and
your
parents
time
in the
is
school
up.
district.
Mr. Cook, your time is up.
I know this because there are
Mr.
teachers
Cook,
in the
your
Hilton Head
time is
Elementary
up.
Schools
Mr.
that are
Cook, your
throwing my
time is
name
up.
around as the bad guy because they're being asked to provide a list of
Mr. Cook, do
materials
you not
that they're using in their
understand that your
classrooms.
time is up? I know you do.
I ask questions about my
Please
child's curriculum because not only is it my
continue
duty as a
your
parent,
conversation
but it is
at the
my right
second
protected
public comment.
by law to ask that material, and the faster you teach all of the district staff about the protection of People's Rights Amendment, the better off it will be for everyone in the long run. I asked you to do this last year, but nothing was done during the Summer Institute when you felt it was more important to train teachers how to implement critical race theory and culturally responsive teachings in the classrooms, as well as social emotional learning. Can we please do away with the bathroom passes? My daughter's voiced
Mr.
concerns
Cook,
over this
can you
issue numerous
please
times.
continue this in
Is
the
there anything
second
else you'd like to
comment
do that's
period?
more degrading than that? A little bit of insight for you: from 2000 to 2018, the suicide rate of children and young adults between the ages of 10 and 24 has gone up 48%. Lastly, please fix the air conditioning in my son's classroom. Thank you.
I don't think your actions are encouraging people to listen to your points.
I quite honestly don't care, Mr. Chair. I really don't. This is an accountability effort. Thank you.
Pardon me?
No, this phone call,
Oh.
Robin said.
Rob?
Hello, Susan. I'm calling you for public comments. If you would state your first and last name, and you'll have 3 minutes. I'm getting ready to put you on speaker. Are you ready? All right. You'll have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Wait a minute.
No.
Not yet. Hold on.
Go ahead, try again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Good evening, my name is Susana Cook, and again, good evening, Dr. Rodriguez and members of the board. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to speak tonight. As you all know, my husband, David Cook, is an advocate for our children and their rights, along with our rights as their parents and all the families in the community. He fights for what he believes is right and fair for all of us. However, it has come to my attention recently that his name is being tossed around as a troublemaker, an enemy of the school and the teachers. And I would like to make a statement tonight to clarify what he's fighting for. He's fighting for a curriculum that is free of prejudice and inappropriate content. He's fighting for the rights of parents to choose what is right for their children. And most of all, he's fighting for a good quality education imparted by teachers that are well paid and that have the proper time and tools to do their jobs. So when I hear that teachers are being told that because of David Cook, they now have to do more work or revise books or reread their curriculum, it is very disappointing. I have a job, and I know that if I don't do my job, I will get fired. We all have to be accountable for our actions, and teaching our children is a very important job. Both my husband and I want accountability from all those that are and will be educating our children, as most parents do as well. It is even more frightening the fact that yesterday we received an unannounced visit to our home by a social worker from the Hilton Head Creative Arts School due to some sort of issue related to our child's registration, which is not even the school he goes to. Since when social workers are deployed to homes for enrollment issues without first trying to contact parents via phone, mail, or email? Even two school principals admitted that is not the protocol. So why did this happen? This is all very strange. And honestly, it makes me think we have a target on our backs. It's very sad, it is very disappointing, because we're good members of the community and we want to raise good kids that participate and volunteer. So I really hope that is not the case. I really hope that his name is not being used as a scapegoat and that what we're saying is heard, because it has very good intentions. Thank you for your time tonight and have a good evening.
Thank you. That's it.
That's it for public comments. We're on to the chairman's report. The 2022 Delegate Assembly is going to be held in concert with the Legislative Advocacy Conference December 3rd. And we have 7 delegates. Well, we have 7 votes. So if you are going to attend that and you would like to be a delegate, please send me an email before the end of this week. Okay. So that's December 3rd. Okay, thank you. Committee reports. Finance?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee met on September 8th, and we discussed a number of items. I will go down the items that were talked about. First item, Mr. Campbell made a motion to approve the committee minutes, which was done. We then had the monthly $100,000 report. Ms. Tanya Crosby presented the report. The report was for the month of July. Ms. Crosby also presented information that compared Amazon and Staples purchases for the month of July based on a question asked by Dr. Wisniewski. The information is currently not on the reports because they are under $100,000. Mr. Campbell made a motion to accept the $100,000 report and bring to the full board on the consent agenda. The motion was seconded by Dr. Wisniewski, and the motion passed 3-0. We also had the monthly transparency report presented by Ms. Tanya Crosby. The report covered the month of July. Ms. Crosby and Ms. Jinger addressed questions by the committee. There was a problem with the link in board docs, so documents were reviewed from the website. Mr. Campbell made the motion to accept the monthly transparency report and move to the full board and to be placed on the next consent agenda. The motion was seconded by Dr. Rachel Wisniewski. Motion passed 3-0. The next item was the board monthly budget. Ms. Tanya Crosby presented the board monthly budget for the September. Mr. Campbell made the motion to move the monthly board budget report to the consent agenda for the next meeting. The motion was seconded by Dr. Wisniewski, and the motion passed 3-0. Next item was the FY 21-22 fourth quarter financial report. Ms. Crosby presented the FY 21-22 fourth quarter financial report, and she highlighted the following areas. Total general fund revenues received were estimated at 101.9%. Total spending was reported at 99.7% of our $274.2 million budget. This represents underspending of $750,671, or 0.3% of budget. Our fund balance, unaudited yet, the audit is going on as we speak, with a fund balance of $56,463,000. Ms. Crosby, do you have anything else you would like to present to the full board about the fourth quarter financial report?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Colonel Geyer. Yeah, I would like to add just one or two items. The increase in fund balance as a result of increased tax revenues is $5.8 million, as Colonel Geyer alluded to. It is an increase in our fund balance. The fund balance is at a level where we are able to reduce our tax anticipation note in the fall. So this fund balance is as of June 30th. And as you all know, as we continue to spend, as we start the new school year, have our make payroll and pay the bills, that balance, that cash balance does continue to decline in the fall, as we do not receive tax revenues until December. So it is necessary that we do borrow a $7.5 million TAN this year, as opposed to what we would have normally with the $15 million. So that is a benefit for the increased fund balance. So I just wanted to point that out this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, are there any other questions on the fourth quarter report?
I see no hands, Mr. Geyer, Colonel Geyer.
Okay, the next item was the Minority Women-Owned Business Enterprise Report. Ms. Crosby and Ms. Yinger presented the report to us, and Mr. Campbell made the motion to accept the Minority Women-Owned Business Enterprise Report and forward to the full board. This takes a board motion. Therefore, I move that the Beaufort County School District accept the Minority Women-Owned Business Enterprise Report for June 30th, 2022. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Dr. Wisniewski seconds. Discussion? Mr. Smith.
And upon we accepting this motion, has there been any new updates upon this upon OE6?
Ms. Crosby, can you answer the question, please?
No, so there have been no updates to OE6.
Oh, I thought I remember. I thought at some point there was something where you can no longer, when you said minority businesses, you could no. It were certain things, parentheses that you could no longer use anymore. I thought that was told to us in that last meeting. And I thought that.
This report is through June 30, 2022, and the new procurement code that I believe you're referring to takes effect July 1 of 2022. So, Ms. Yinger, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add there, but this completes our reporting for fiscal year 2022. So any changes that may take effect are will be in the next reporting period, 6-month reporting period, that we'll bring back to you probably in early spring.
Okay, so those were just updates that you were giving us early. Is that my understanding correct?
I'm sorry?
So those were just updates that y'all were giving us that will occur in the next go around?
Yes, that is correct.
And what were those updates, if you don't mind, just?
Updates to the changes in the minority women business in the new procurement code.
I believe what you're referring to is the Minority Women Business Enterprise Utilization Plan that the board approved, I believe, the last time here in Hilton Head. And those changes are reflected in the Minority Women Business Enterprise Utilization Plan. I can give you a summary if you give me a moment, but there's quite a few changes in there, but you have access to that document as well.
Yeah, you are correct. But however, I thought it was something in terms of there were certain things that we were using that we will not be able to use in the future. But I can go back and look at that. But in accepting this report, being that we discussed it, I just was kind of looking for that, and I didn't see the report, so I was just wanted to get clarification, and she's clarified and said that actually that's in the next go around. So I thank you for that clarification, but I just want to make sure exactly that we're on the same sheet of music and that we'll have the same understanding.
Yes,
And I
sir,
appreciate
you're
that.
correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Middleton, aye.
Guyer, aye.
I'm sorry, Angela was
Aye.
an aye? Okay, Earl Campbell? Aye. Okay, that's unanimous.
Our next item was the discussion of state contract changes in the new procurement code. Ms. Yinger reviewed with the committee that our procurement code is in full compliance with the state procurement code. Our next item was discussion of monthly Esser updates. Ms. Crosby proposed to the committee that monthly Esser updates should come to the Finance Committee first for discussion and then forwarded to the full board to allow a better review of the report. Mr. Campbell made the motion that the Finance Committee recommend to the full board bringing that monthly Esser update to the Finance Committee to be vetted and provided to the full board at the next available meeting. Motion was seconded by Dr. Wisniewski, and the motion passed 3-0. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, I move that the Finance Committee the Finance Committee receive the monthly Esser update and be vetted prior to being provided to the full board at the next available meeting.
Second.
Okay, second.
Whoa.
Okay, Dr. Wad, second.
Second.
Did you get
Clean
it?
that up.
Did you get it, Rob?
Recommend that the Finance Committee receive the monthly Esser update prior to being provided to the full board on the next available meeting.
No, I think what you have up there is the same, but it's not the exact same words.
Motion that the Finance Committee receive the monthly Esser update prior.
Mr. Campbell has a question.
Colonel Guyer?
That's fine.
That's it? Okay. And we have a second, Dr. Quads. Yes, Mr. Smith?
Mel Campbell had a question.
I have a question and a comment. Why would this be needed? Wouldn't the Finance Committee have the right to ask the staff to present that Esser update to them anyhow? Like we get all the other updates before it comes to the board?
Ms. Crosby, do you want to explain why you asked that?
Yes, sir. Good evening. It was my recommendation to since the last board meeting to bring the Esser update to the full board, or to the Finance Committee first. There were a number of questions during the board meeting, and it took some lengthy conversation. In interest of time, I thought it would be best to further dive into some of the details to provide some clarity of the information. We do have a number of grants. We have 5 different grants in the Esser plan, and it does, each of which expire annually, and so it provides, it generates some confusion between when we're talking about the various spending and activities, and so I thought that it would be best to bring some further detail of the activities, maybe in a consolidated format, so you can see actually what we're spending on the programs themselves in totality, and not just by individual grant like you've been seeing them on a monthly basis. Additionally, budget transfers, as we are transferring funds around from one grant to the other to spend the oldest funds first. Those budget transfers were requested to come before the board as well, and so my suggestion or recommendation was to bring it to committee first and then through to the full board, so that a lot of the questions can be vetted at the committee level. But certainly it's purview of the board of your wishes this evening.
I understand why you're doing it. My question is, why do we need to approve it? And you can do that without our approval. The Finance Committee can request reports before it gets to the board, like we do all the other reports. So that's my only question.
Well, I would answer,
Mr. Campbell?
I would answer that it seems harmless to me, and it solidifies that the board wants you to do this, instead of assuming.
That's not acceptable answer, because all of it, everybody can do that and say the same thing and do the same thing. I mean, we have to have a general trend of order of operation that we do with all the items, and we never had to approve it before. Any stop off at any committee hadn't come to the board to be okayed. So saying it's harmless is one thing, but I mean, if everybody else came to the same route, then it creates, a little bit of cumbersome, because we'll be voting on things that is already set in the method that we operate. And we don't want to keep voting on what we already have in operation.
Okay, any other discussion? Mr. Smith.
Well, I'll just say I do understand where he's coming from, and I do see his point. And I also see no harm in them taking it to the Finance Committee, if that's what the Finance Committee asked for. But then that would definitely be a change of pace in how we operate. So that is a concern moving forward.
Ms. Rabbi.
I think the reason that perhaps this is coming to the board, Mr. Campbell, is that this is a change in process. It's been, coming directly, the Esser report, coming to the full board prior to going to committee. So this is a change in process, and so for the board to codify it, I think that's appropriate.
Mr. Smith.
Yeah, but that's no different than at the committee level, with you saying, are there any more requests? And you saying, yeah, every month we're requesting that they bring the SR funds to the Finance Committee. That is really no different. So I would disagree. And I just want to point it out that once we say this, then my question to the chair, then what will be the process from here? If we do vote on this tonight for this, then will this be the process with everything, or will this a one-time process for this? Because that to me, that is definitely no different than the chairman at the end of the committee meeting asking, is there anything else that anyone else has, or they see that they need to bring forward, or they want us to look into?
I would suggest that when a committee wants to change the process that the board has been adhering to, that they should come to the full board to get the board's vote. As Ms. Robine pointed out, this is a change to the process. And I say it's harmless because we have had committees that have gone off on their own and not doing things that the board really asks them to do. So I would always lean toward the committee asking the board if that's what the board wants the committee to do. So that's my reasoning. But the change of process, I think, is the key point. It's changing the process that we've been doing up to this point, and I think it needs the board's approval. Yes, ma'am.
I don't need to say what I was going to say. You have said it, and Kathy Robine has said it exactly. This is in the interest of transparency. We're changing the process. We want the board to approve that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with everything that you stated in regard to process. I just also wanted to point out the policy in regard to items being, remanded to or from committee. Committees have no authority to direct staff. The board does as a whole. So it would require the board's action for us to direct this to go to committee.
Okay.
Based off.
I'm sorry, did I call on you?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
There you go.
Mr. Smith?
There you go. Yeah, in that last comment that was made, where can we find that based off of what? Because that's not our previous practice in any committee meeting. So I mean, where can I find that at? That is in standard practice.
I'll pull it up and I'll read it. In the Coherent Governance Manual under Governance Culture, Board Committees GC5, it says under number 1, it says board committees and other such entities by whatever name created by the board will not be used to direct, advise, assist, or oversee the staff. Committees customarily will prepare recommendations for board consideration. Board committees will have no authority over staff and may exercise demands on staff time and organizational resources only to the extent authorized in this policy. So committees, if the Finance Committee wanted to take it upon themselves to direct that Esser updates come through committee, it's not within their purview or authority. That needs to come through the full board.
We don't need to belabor this point. We all understand what we do. We know for a fact that every committee, any committee, can ask the superintendent to submit a committee report and for information about any committee report to that committee before it comes to the board. And then it comes to the board. Everything we do is in that vein. Everything we do is in that vein. Every report that comes to the board comes from a committee, and oftentimes, or if not all the time, the staff has input to that committee report to the board. Whether they require information from the superintendent or the superintendent sends his agent to that report, it comes to the board through the committees. That's why we got committees. So to tell me and to sit here and to undermine that process and say that this is different in the process, that's not entirely truthful. And we don't need to discuss it. I mean, everybody who's been to any committee meeting, any board meeting, know what the process is.
And truthful is kind of harsh. Mr. Earl Campbell.
This recommendation did not come from the committee. It came from the staff through the committee. And we voted on it, we discussed it, and we make a recommendation. If you don't support it, don't vote for it. That's what I look at it. Thank you.
All right. I think that's a good time to call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Middleton, aye.
Guyer, aye.
Okay. Opposed?
I'm a no.
Mr. Mel Campbell? And
Absolutely
Mr.
no.
William Smith?
Absolutely no.
You just raise your hand.
That's absolutely no.
That's all you do, just raise your hand.
Absolutely no.
Okay. Colonel Guyer, are you
Yes,
complete?
Mr. Chairman, we have one final thing to address. Future topics, the committee will look at next committee meeting, the transparency report, the $100,000 report, the board monthly budget, and the Esser report. Also, staff asked that we have a discussion and review of what has to occur in salary increases, bonuses, and any other increases. In other words, a deep dive into long-term costs in salaries, or just for your information for the board, and that concludes my report, sir.
Okay. Operations?
That's right,
Ms.
okay.
Boatwright?
Thanks for warming them up for me, Colonel Guyer. Yes, so we had our Operations Committee meeting last week. We had it at Battery Creek High School, which is one of our big projects. We had it in the new ROTC wing. We walked past the beautiful new weight rooms and saw the work being done out in the fields, and so that was a really nice way to start off the meeting. Present at this meeting were myself, the two other committee members, Mr. Mel Campbell, and Ms. Tricia Fidrich. We were also joined by Mr. Earl Campbell, Mr. William Smith, and I believe Chairman Stribinger was there remotely. And I wanted to take a moment to express my appreciation for Mr. Rob Corbin, Mr. Robert Otting, and his staff, because it is a lot of information that they have to present. And I am going to do my level best to give a quick synopsis of that meeting and save time for questions, but I want the public and other board members to know that we go through this very thoroughly. In this packet here and in the packet in the Operations Committee, we have in-depth report on each project. We have the 519, which shows every dollar being spent. We have a log that tracks every use of contingency, and we have a log that tracks every single amendment. So I don't want to get into all those details. Those are all available. My favorite thing is Mr. Corbin does an executive summary of all this, and that is tremendously helpful. So in that vein, I'm going to try and give the executive summary operations report. So first of all, we asked that HES, our custodial contractor, come and address some concerns that board members had regarding essentially what I'll call human resource questions regarding custodial services, staffing, salary, benefits, and we spent quite a bit of time going over some of those questions with the staff. In October, they are already planning on coming back with the maintenance contractors to do our biannual sort of evaluation of those two contracts. So kind of where I would like to leave this report at this time is that we gave them a lot of feedback. We addressed a lot of concerns. We asked a lot of questions, and we told them to come back in October with some good answers. They did share that hiring has been challenging. Particularly in areas like Hilton Head, where there's so much pressure for staff. But that they were improving. So we're going to be looking for those trends. So that's kind of where we left it. We did spend a fair amount of time with them, but they will be coming back in October, and I'll bring a more fulsome report at that time. Then we moved on to a construction update, and I'm going to give you a 5-word summary of the construction update. Budget and scheduling concerns persist. That pretty much sums it up. The staff is working very hard to limit the budget and scheduling concerns. Right now, they are chiefly noticeable at Robert Smalls, one of our big projects, Battery Creek High School, Mossy Oaks Elementary, and apparently a maintenance building that none of us cared about. So we just moved on from that. Then let's see, we had the big issue that was on the table was what we're calling mid-program reset 2.0. And basically, the aforementioned budget and scheduling concerns have required some extra funding. And fortunately, we had a $30 million bid premium, which I have tried to explain to friends and family that have asked what's a bid premium. It's just basically, if someone wants to ask that question, they can answer it for me. Essentially, we just got more money. They loaned us more money than we asked for. Does that sound about right, Tanya?
It's prepaid interest.
Prepaid interest. Okay, so we had $30 million in prepaid interest, and that's turned out to be very fortunate. And the department has worked very hard to use every dime of that $31 million. I think we're going to end up with $17 to spare. But they are committed to a full and complete completion of the scope of the referendum. They are not going to be, will be the term, limiting the scope of the referendum, changing anything. They're going to deliver on everything the referendum voters voted on, and they're going to come in with $17 to spare, apparently. So we did go over all those numbers. They look good. Fingers crossed that we can get this all done, and that the budgeting and scheduling concerns will begin to resolve a little bit. So basically, at this point, that concludes my report. Like I said, we will have another meeting October 12th at 4 o'clock. I think place to be determined, right, Robin? Okay, so I will get emails out on that, or Ms. Kustenberry will. And I think also that more or less hits the construction update, unless people have questions. So Mr. Otting has volunteered to come up here if there are questions regarding the construction update in our packet.
I just want to point out, for the public, this is public information. It's available to them, all these
Absolutely.
details, because we've gone through the details.
Yeah, there's, at any given construction update, we have over 100 pages of documents, and every dollar is accounted for, and those of us on the committee, we've gone over it with a pretty fine-tooth comb, and also they're presented, following our meeting, they're presented to the Citizen-Led Oversight Committee, and they're also presented to the Citizen-Led Oversight Finance Committee. So, yeah, if there's any questions, I'm
And that's
happy to
on our
entertain those.
website?
Yeah, they're all on the website.
They're all on the website.
Yep.
So, yeah, if you have trouble sleeping, or you're fascinated by numbers, either one,
Yeah,
it's all
it's-
available out there for you to slog through.
Yeah, I have to say, I think that my operations committee gets the gold star for department reports in terms of the executive summary, the fulsomeness of the details, and the transparency. So if there's a cup that we can win, I'd like to nominate us.
I'll pick up a gold star for you next time I'm at Staples.
Perfect. And this concludes my report.
I believe Mr. Campbell does have a question.
Mr. Harding. I received several calls
Yes, sir.
today concerning Battery Creek, the ticket booth and the concession stand. Is that going to be ready by Friday?
Yes, sir. Everybody's working very hard to make that happen.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
And also, my question would be, in terms of not presenting this to the public. So, because when last time I was on the operations committee, they said, that we have, I'm under the assumption that, I heard what Ms. Zinger said at first that we didn't discuss, but am I under the assumption that there are no yellow lights in this packet?
I did mention the yellow lights in the packet. They're on the executive summary in our board documents. The yellow lights are Robert Smalls, Battery Creek, Mossy Oaks, and the building and maintenance warehouse. There is also a yellow traffic light that I will go ahead and mention for the sake of full disclosure on Defusky Island, because the county reached out to us because they were doing some paving over there, and it's not easy to get the paving equipment over there. So we dedicated some 8% funding to pave the parking lot at Defusky Island. Since then, the county has decided not to continue with their paving project, so there is a scheduling concern, and the operations department's working on that.
And then also, I believe that in operations committee, I believe there was also a discussion about the meeting, or you may mention about the meeting at Beaufort High School, about the opening the county had on yesterday. I believe Mrs. Fridrich and I attended, and as well as one of Mr. Outing's staff members. And I thought that update would come too as well.
Sure. The update is that basically nothing changed. That when county council, and for full disclosure to the public, county council met again to what they're calling the Beaufort High Access Realignment Project. They had met a couple weeks ago, and I reported in the last meeting that they have decided not to do anything to the Beaufort High School access realignment. What they did propose to do was a 4-lane, an expansion to 4 lanes of the Sea Island Parkway. Sea Island Parkway? No. Woods Memorial Bridge to Sea Island. Yeah, that area.
21.
But not in any way change the access to Beaufort High School. Since then, they've gotten a lot of pushback on that plan, so now they've decided to persist in not doing anything to the Beaufort High School Access Realignment Project. So the update I have is that the outcome to the school district remains status quo.
Right, I just want to make sure that we are getting through this information and that we're not rushing through the meeting and leaving this out, because this is vital information that some of my constituents, if they are watching, that they could get that, if not, having to reach out to me. So that I just want to make sure that we are getting as much as information out in these meetings as possible. So,
well, I appreciate that.
Yes.
What I also think, though, is that this information, and we should let people know, you can go on YouTube or the county channel and watch these meetings. And the reason I want to be succinct in my presentation is to save time for questions. So if there are questions, if people on the board do have specific things they want to bring up, we have time to do that.
I'm just concerned, once again, as I say, I'm concerned that sometimes we rush through without getting things out just in terms of saving for questions. But the information is presented, then there's no need to be, there's no need for a question. Thank you.
Okay. I'll just point out, this is a county council. This is a county council decision that they are going to make. We are
I will
expressing
continue to
our
report on the
opinion,
update
but it's
to our
their
schools.
decision. Yes, ma'am, I understand. I just wanted to clarify.
Gotcha.
It's not something we do, it's county council. Okay.
Mr. Stribinger, the superintendent's report is next, and the first item is under student achievement. We'll be talking about MTSS under the first item. Dr. Stratos?
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez, and good evening, Chairman Stribinger and board members. This evening, we have a collaborative presentation between Instructional Services and Student Services divisions. Here to present under Student Achievement section of tonight's board meeting are Karen McKinsey, Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning, Dr. Derek Skaggs, sorry, Derek, Director of Student Services. Additionally, to lend support are Dr. Juliet White, Officer of Student Services, and Andrea Murray, our Human Services Coordinator. Karen and Derek, come on down, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Stratus. Thank you, Board, for allowing us to come forward tonight about MTSS. We're going to start out by giving you just a short definition and purpose of what we do with our MTSS program and kind of outline the 6 components of the state. Derek and I are a partnership. I take the academic side and he takes the behavioral side. So we will do that tonight for you. Multi-tiered systems of support is a comprehensive framework that helps to eliminate barriers and improve student outcomes by providing an equitable tiered approach to monitoring, analyzing, and supporting student needs for achievement. The state outlines 6 components in their framework. So we're going to go through each one of those components. And again, I'm going to give you the academic side, and my partner, Dr. Skaggs, is going to give you the behavioral. First one is tiered instruction. MTSS focuses on quality core instruction with an emphasis on intervention. Tier 1 is for all of our students. That's what happens daily within the classroom. Those are those instructional practices and strategies we see across the board in our schools that focus our teachers and our students on mastery. Tier 2 instruction is specific for student needs. Tier 2 is typically supplemental instruction, and that usually happens in a small group. Groups are very intentional, and the instruction is very deliberate and specific for the needs of those students. Tier 3, that instruction is intensive. It's based on student needs, and it's typically provided in an individualized model. The instruction is founded on evidence-based strategies, and if you think about some of those, phonemic awareness, coding, those kind of things. It is essential that there be consistent monitoring because these students are typically a year behind. Tiers 2 and 3 are always logged into our rich system for full monitoring processes. Turn it over to my partner for the behavioral.
All right, and from the behavioral side, we also use a tiered system. Tier 1 is going to be for all students. It's going to be your classroom expectations, your school-wide expectations that are defined and taught daily. It's also going to be appropriate school behaviors that are modeled in the classroom and retaught as needed. There's the systems in our schools for reinforcing appropriate behavior. For example, our Character Ed Student of the Month, who was presented here today, is one of those examples of recognizing appropriate behavior in our schools. Tier 2 for behavior is specific based on student needs. that is targeted at the behavior that is interfering with their academic progress. These sessions are ran at least twice a week for 20 minutes each session, and that's where we're actually targeting skills such as respectfully disagreeing, things like that, self-regulation. Tier 3, again, is instruction and behavior that is more intensive but still based on student needs, and is typically provided for a minimum of 3 times a week, and those are 20-minute sessions each. So that's where we're teaching the behaviors.
Our next component is data evaluation. Data evaluation is both formative and summative data, and that is reviewed to determine tiered instructional needs of our students. Data from instructional interventions are again logged into our Enrich system, and those are monitored by teams in order to make those data-driven decisions and processes for student needs. Behavioral?
All right. From the behavioral side, our school teams, our MTSS teams, they look at office referrals, which are logged in Educator's Handbook. From there, they're asking basically 4 questions. They're identifying and defining each problem of their school, that's school-wide. They're determining why the problem exists. They're developing a school-wide solution plan to target that specific problem. And then they're progress monitoring and evaluating the plan as they move forward.
So our next one is, we do make a good team though. Our next one is database problem solving. Academic MTSS plans are developed based on specific needs determined through database monitoring. Database problem solving is enacted by a team approach to specifically target the need of the students. The MTSS team uses that data and evidence-based research strategies to specifically target the need. So whether if it's reading, whether if it's math, those specific needs are targeted. Behavioral?
And it's very similar to what we do. It's more of an individual database process. We're looking at specific needs of the student, and the MTSS team is then using the data to determine if the evidence-based strategies that are selected for the behavior are being effective, or if it's something that we need to go back to the table and retarget.
The next component is communication and collaboration. And this is probably one of the biggest ones that sometimes you don't really think about. The collaborative efforts of the MTSS team have to be consistent, and it has to go along with that monitoring piece. This process is again embedded in our Enrich system. Our teams get together, they meet about these students. Collaboration with parents and guardians is also an essential piece of the academic plan in Tier 2 and Tier 3.
And from the behavioral side, we follow the exact same process when it comes to teaming up with all stakeholders and then communicating effectively.
Leadership. Each school does have an MTSS coordinator. All of our schools have one. And each team has a team leader. So the way the state defines this is like a concentric model. So if you kind of think of it as a bullseye type model, on that outside you have the state and district leadership. Then inside of that, you have that school leadership, you have your administrators, you have your MTSS lead. Then within that, you have specific maybe grade levels, if you're thinking about grade levels. And then in that center, you have that specific team that has been developed for that student's specific need. Behavioral?
In behavior, I mean, instead of saying the same thing exactly again, we're going to follow that same process. I know it's really just about targeting that need.
We're getting ready to get majorly different here in a minute. Building capacity and infrastructure. This is one thing our district's worked really hard this year on through the continuous improvement model. And that does include our PLC, our professional learning communities that we have developed to build the capacity of our educators in instruction. We also, my partner and I, have worked very hard to come up with a new MTSS handbook for our coordinators in our schools, and that will be unveiled to them on October 6th, our quarterly meeting on October 6th. At that point, it won't be finished. We wish it would. But they will give us some feedback at that point. We will go back to the drawing board. We will meet with our prospective leadership and discuss some of those changes that need to be made. We also have an annual training meeting on that Enrich system that we were talking about, where we're doing all the logging in, just to make sure that they all are updated on the utilization of that process. And he's got a lot on that one. Good.
So building capacity is something we take very serious. There's no way that we can get around to all 33 schools and do it for them. So the first thing is we're developing the handbook to get out so we can be consistent across all 33 schools. Some of you attended some of our Summer Institute trainings and even some trainings since then, because we've been doing a lot of trainings on trauma-informed approaches and tiered systems of support, and we're specifically building capacity in our behavior specialists, our interventionists, our administrators, our teachers, and our school staff, just building that capacity of support. We're developing an MTSS website, which is designed to take teams, school teams, through training modules, so they have the resources right there at a click. We're building student services models across our district. Pearsonville Elementary School right now is one of the schools that are building one of those pilot models. Revamping the alternative school to offer more targeted trauma-informed interventions and support the students in building behavioral skills so they can be successful when they do return back to their home schools. We're also pushing out and training on the 8 effective classroom practices to all of our schools, which are establishing classroom expectations, classroom procedures and routines, encouraging expected behavior, discouraging inappropriate behavior, active supervisions, various opportunities to respond, and then differentiating our task difficulty, as well as providing choice in our activity sequencing. We're also revamping the backbone of Enrich, which is our documentation system. When it comes to Enrich, it's not the process, but it helps guide the process and the documentation. And we're in the process of going back right now with Daniel Fallon's help and cleaning up kind of the back end of that to make it easier for teachers to use as a documentation tool.
And you notice that under all of that on the state's umbrella is UDL. Universal Design for Learning is an educational framework that's really based on research and learning sciences. It includes the cognitive learning pieces and guides the development of the system to help that individual learner's needs in order to ensure those rich outcomes that we all desire. And I believe that is it for our partnership tonight. Are there any questions?
Okay, question? Kathy?
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm just curious, who provides the behavioral instruction for our Tier 3 students? You said they get 20 minutes three times per week?
It could be Tier 2 or Tier 3, and it really depends on the student need. If it's a mental health need, then we partner with outside agencies as well as some of our in-school counselors and social workers. If it is, for example, curriculums on respectfully disagreeing, that's a skill that a lot of our kids need, our behavior specialists help out with that. Or sometimes if it's a teacher that really does have good rapport with a group of students that have a specific need, then they're going to provide that instruction to them, because really that relationship's key when we're trying to modify behaviors.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen and Derek, for all your work. So this MTSS Coordinator's Handbook, I don't really have a question as much as kudos on that, because it is so important throughout the district that it's aligned. And in years past, MTSS or whatever the wording or what it was before, you might have it done differently at every different school, and that's difficult for parents to understand and so on. So kudos on that handbook, and also on Enrich. What a laborious process that can be to document every intervention that you are trying, although you have to, because that's your backup when things go south. So those are two fabulous things that I think can help support teachers in the classroom. So those are just my comments. Thank you for working on that.
Mr. Mel Campbell?
Well, UDL is a statement that says it all in terms of what you described just then to us all. My question is, UDL is only as effective as the capacity you build. So how do we monitor or register or keep track of how that capacity is coming? How many educators in any particular building is very, engaged in the MTS process to to be, I'd say, be fully committed to the process.
And I will say we're probably further along than we've ever been in that. As you know, I've been in the district for a long time. The continuous improvement model that we put in place is consistently applied across the district. So every teacher across the district is involved in a professional learning community, and this is one of the discussions that they have in those meetings. So I think for the first time, maybe, we really do a good job at that. And it's exciting to say that that continuous improvement model has helped us with this.
Okay. All right.
If I may, I think, what you see inherent in this system is a very data-driven system, right? That's really, really important in this work. In the continuous improvement model, I think that one of the things we do in building capacity is we're trying to keep track of who's been trained on different aspects of this and where they are, how many sessions of training they've had, and as we move them along in that capacity building process as well. So that's just another way to keep track of what each individual has received in terms of their own building of capacity.
Yeah, I agree, and, I hope that, this is going to continue because, we go nowhere unless the capacity is there.
That's right.
And then the buy-in is there.
That's
no buy-in, I don't care how many people you train.
Yep.
If they don't do what they're trained to do, no results.
That's right, and this it is a process that is laborious, I think, is what Ms. Fidrich said, and it's really a great word for it. But it is an important part because this is differentiation. This is how you differentiate for individual needs, and that's how you work at moving all students forward. So.
In terms, you have, well, first let me both start by saying thank you both and thank Doc for allowing you to bring us this information. But, everyone learns differently. And, I look at this picture, there's a lot going on. But in terms of it, if I want to go back later and recap it, there's no information there. And you said, I heard one of you said, I heard one of you said the framework. You've done the framework, but I still need the information to digest and process what you've given us because over the last 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes, however long you've been there, and you spoke, you've said a lot. So for someone who may have not understand all this business, or who may not understand some of what you just said, then who, what, where, when, why, how, and what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mr. Smith. And honestly, I mean, things like this are really complex in how they function and operate. My hope would be when we go through these processes, it's been the board's request that you get a summary type of thing on these presentations. And so that's what this is a summary of a very complex system, right? And then if you're engaging with individuals out there who have deeper questions, I would say, let's make sure we connect those individuals with these individuals here that are presenting to you today so that we can get them, if they've got questions answered. I wouldn't expect that those of you on the board would be able to answer questions for members of the community in a deep kind of way on something like this. I would expect that my staff and my team would be able to do that. But that enough about this that you can say, we have this going on, and this is important, and I can direct you to somebody who can dive real deep into this with you.
And I hear you, Dr. Rodriguez, but all due respect, at some point I should be able to read some of this and understand some of this as well, and be informative to go back and look and say, oh yeah, I read and say, oh yeah, that perked my memory when they were up there talking, or that went with that. Here, I just don't feel like I have that, and that may be the board's purview, but I've stated several times that I learn differently. Yep. So in regard to that, I'm asking, when information like this is brought forward, that not only for just the community, so for me as a board member, so that I can also speak and go back and read and recap my memory, that there's more tangible information for me so that I can process and digest and understand exactly what I was just told. And to me, that's important. And I at no point did I want to say anything in a negative connotation towards what the team just brought up, because they brought up some great information, a lot of information. But my point was just that simple, and I believe that they had that. But in regards to that, that would also help me formulate my questions of what does this look like in terms to BMS, in terms of Mrs. Skaggs is speaking for BMS in terms of how they are interacting with certain problems that they are finding versus a Tier 2 and Tier 3. I myself have talked to even some of his BMSs, and I was in that one training that he spoke about, and even one of them was saying that, yeah, let me know that Mrs. Skaggs, kudos to you, that he has internally bought a different framework of what it looked like. So that is what we're looking for, and that also gives a more clear, exciting perception to the community to see exactly what we're doing and understanding and process it without trying to reach out to him, and he's still trying to write a book to staff. So that's my point. Tangible things, and I appreciate what y'all did, just so that I can understand and process it. I just would prefer, because I learned differently, if we could have something in writing in these pictures to explain exactly what's going on. That's it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
What's success? What is success?
What is success?
How are you going to know that you're successful here?
I tell people all the time my job is to work myself out of a job. but success is when we really start helping students not, in my field, behavior, make the same mistakes over and over, learn from them, build skills in them, and they become academically successful from my angle of the behavior.
Is there going to be data?
There will definitely be data, because well, first off, we log data in multiple ways when it comes to behavior. The first way is always, the office referrals, right? That's Educator's Handbook. That's what the kids, those are infractions the kids have messed up, right? We always keep track of that, minor offenses and then office managed offenses, which is ODRs.
So office referrals are going down.
Office referrals are going down,
we're being
suspensions are going
successful.
down, and then that translates exactly to academics.
I chart mine by increased academic success.
Okay. All right.
The whole game.
Because that's an important part of.
Student success.
Yep. And that's what it's all about, is increasing those academics.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next item, just, like last time, the state just released again some results. They're sending it out little by little this year. And so they've sent out some results around EOC and some career readiness results. And so Daniel has been scrambling since that came out in order to have something ready to share with you this evening. I think as a general rule of thumb, we can look at it and we can see progress that we see there in various areas. And I think it's also safe to say that we still have a ways to go to rebound completely from the impact of the pandemic. And as we've said, it's a multi-year process of recovery. But we see some progress in the right direction here, and that is good news. So, Mr. Fallon.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Tonight, as Dr. Rodriguez mentioned, we will be reporting South Carolina end-of-course assessments, as well as our career readiness data. A similar theme will continue through tonight's data from our last presentation for SC Ready, SC Pass. Beaufort has areas to celebrate, but the need for continued growth, as Dr. Rodriguez mentioned, for our students does remain our focus. So tonight, we are reporting end-of-course exams. They are a statewide high school assessment. They are tied to high school credit courses. They are in the areas of English 2, Algebra 1, U.S. History, and Biology. These assessments meet all requirements of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which is ESSA. Students in grades 7 through 12 participate in these assessments. 7th graders being the youngest. 7th and 8th graders are taking Algebra 1, where the high schools are taking the U.S. History, Biology, and English 2. Speaking of English 2, it was introduced in 2021. It replaced English 1 as the end-of-course assessment. And then also new in 2022, United States History and Constitution, the standards were rewritten and adopted by the state of South Carolina. And whenever that happens in assessment world, we give a new assessment, and that assessment is scaled as well. So I will only be showing 2022 data for SC EOC when it comes to U.S. history, and I only have 2021, 2022 English 2 data. Career readiness assessments. Career readiness assessments are industry-level certifications. They're given to 11th grade students. Certificate level students can earn bronze, a silver, gold, or platinum. We'll speak a little bit more about that when we get to that section. South Carolina, over the years, has used 2 vendors. The first was ACT WorkKeys, and the other, when that contract expired and was rebid, was When Learning. It was also, its assessment's called Ready to Work. And you see in the last bullet there, my data this evening and across the state, it's extremely hard to look longitudinally because of ongoing RFP concerns between those 2 vendors and statewide appeals. A little bit more about that. ACT WorkKeys had the original assessments, the career readiness assessments, but they did not have a curriculum to prepare students to take those assessments. So they contracted When Learning to write said curriculum. And then, obviously, a company sees that there's money to make by making assessments with their curriculum. When Learning then made another assessment, so there's an ongoing national feud between those 2 companies. As it stands right now, South Carolina is out for bid for another readiness assessment. The data presented, longitudinal where available, end of course data from 2019 pre-pandemic, 2021, and of course the most recent 2022 data. And then I had to be somewhat creative with the career readiness data and show you some sort of longitudinal data. Beaufort County School District, % of students passing end of course exams. Also have the percentage of students scoring any type of career readiness certification. And then I broke that down one more for accountability sake. It's % of students earning career readiness certificates being silver, gold, or platinum. And you'll understand what that means a little bit more when we get down to that.
Excuse me, for point of clarification, this is in our package, or this is emailed to the board?
No, Mr. Smith, this is information that the state just released, and so our team has to gather the information, because it's not released like this, right?
Right.
They have to take this information, comb through it, and put it in a presentation format like you see here. So this is the kind, I wanted to give you the information as soon as we get it, because when they lift the embargo, they lift it and everybody gets it, right? So in order to get it to you as quickly as possible, our team has to work at it and scramble, and they're not able to get it done in time to put stuff in your packets when the state releases it in the manner in which they release these.
Right,
so
I'm just talking about the PowerPoint presentation. I mean, is the presentation, have you been given that, copy of that?
No, you'll have it after the end of the.
Yeah, he's just finished this to provide to you today, so he's going through it now.
Okay.
This is hot off the press. It just syncs up that they're released on board meeting days. It's amazing. So longitudinal percentage passing for end of course exams. As I spoke, Algebra 1, English 2, Biology 1, and then U.S. History and Constitution. I think most people follow at home and here. Green is good. So when we look in the first upper left-hand corner of that quadrant, we have Algebra 1 data. And I can say summary across all 4 of these subject areas. We are not yet back at pre-pandemic % passing. We understand that. But what we do see is we do see growth. So we're moving back in that direction. So if we look at Algebra 1 end of course assessments, 2019 pre-pandemic, Beaufort County School District had 80% passage rate. In 2022, that Algebra 1, as we spoke also with SC Ready, math took a terrific hit coming out of the interrupted learning, 66.3% and a rebound to 71% in 2022. Moving across, we'll go to English 2 in the top right-hand corner of the quadrant. Again, 2021 was the first year for English 2, so we don't have a baseline of what pre-pandemic English 2 looked like. But we do see growth. We do see we are very close to the state on an average of percent passing, from 81.9% passing to 83.8. The bottom left-hand quadrant, biology, all 3 years, 2019, 2021, 2022, the Beaufort County School District has been above the state average with a pre-pandemic passage rate of 73.5% and a post somewhat normalized 21-22 school year of 62.8. In the last, since there's only one data element on a rescaled assessment and with new standards, 2022 U.S. History and Constitution, the state and Beaufort County almost matching at 56.2 and 56.5% passage on that end of course assessment. We see growth in 2 of the 3 measurable areas, with 1 remaining the same at 62.8 with biology. Moving over to career readiness, and this is where I will explain how I did have to be somewhat creative. 2019, 2021, and 2022 contract negotiations with the State Department did require us to switch vendors. So in 2019 and 2021, I do have Ready to Work, which would be the WIN product, WIN Learning. And then 2022, the state, South Carolina did return to ACT Work Keys. I cannot report subscores on this in this manner because both tests have slightly different names to their subscores. But what I can do is they're both industry accepted certificates, so I can take some sort of liberty and say a student earning a bronze certificate on Work Keys is the same bronze certificate on WIN, so I can report them as students receiving certificates. So the first 2 years, 2019, 2021, using Ready to Work, this is for any certificate, bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. Beaufort County School District with 82.3%. We increased that to 84.6, where we were then above the state. In the most recent year, we do see a dip switching over to Work Keys. We are 81.1%, where the state is at 79.7. Looking at the same data, same assessments, but only looking at certificates of silver or higher being sold silver, gold, or platinum, we see a similar trend between 2019 and 2021. And then we see Beaufort County at 53.3% above the state average. So what do these certificates mean? Because you're probably wondering, they just get a piece of paper, a certificate of completion, but it is not that. So a student earning a bronze certificate coming out of high school has the prerequisite skills, and these are limited to just a few that I have noted from ACT Work Keys documentations. A student earning a bronze coming out of high school has the prerequisite skills. They would qualify to be a vet tech, a welder, or something, some heavy equipment operator. Students earning a silver are said to have prerequisite skills for human resources manager, a medical assistant, or a radiology technician. Gold, you're getting into speech pathologist, accountant, school counselor. And then students earning platinum have the prerequisite skills to be airline pilots, mechanical engineers, or physicists. This is not just a career blue-collar type assessment. These are assessments that colleges look at as well. And just finally, in summary, what have we learned? Again, same as the last presentation. The Beaufort County School District is experiencing, we're in a period of academic recovery. Work does remain needed to be done to return to the pre-pandemic performance. Impact of interrupted instruction mirrors the observed results of SC Ready and SC Pass in math and science, and this impact will be felt for several years. Liken this to, no one here is that, but as we get older and if we get injured while doing any type of exercise, it does take longer to heal the older you are. And it will take longer for these skills to be regained, and we will see a rebound in these numbers. It will take longer as the grade level of these students is higher. We saw that with SC Ready. 3rd, 4th grade rebounded very quickly. 7th and 8th grade, the last presentation, some questions came up as to why not as quickly. These are now 9th, 10th, 11th grade students taking these assessments. The foundation of math has been...
Just in context for these students they're seniors this year. They were in 11th grade last year when they took this assessment, right? In context, They have not had a normal full year of high school. Ninth grade, part of their year was interrupted. 10th grade, interrupted. Last year, we were still dealing with quarantines and all sorts of things. This year, we'll end strong. We'll be their first full year of a normal high school year.
And that's speaking for the career readiness assessments. And even, just as a brief note, even though South Carolina does not currently, the State Department of South Carolina does not have what would be a contract with either vendor, we are examining the use of one of our old contracts with one of the two vendors to offer the students that, especially that are graduate maybe in December, that opportunity to resit. So we're exploring those options to make sure we're giving those students that haven't had a normal high school year a chance for one more time when they're with us to meet these industry credentials. Math Foundation is greatly impacted. Beaufort County is working to accelerate the catch-up of these type skills. End-of-course assessments, as mentioned earlier, in 2 of 3 subject areas did improve between 2021 and 2022, Algebra 1 and English 2, and we had similar results in 2021 to 2022 for biology. And finally, with career readiness awareness assessments, ACT work keys, the percent of students earning certificates and the percent of students earning silver, gold, or platinum now exceed the state percentages. And that concludes the brief report on end-of-course exams and college readiness assessments.
Thank you, Daniel. Just a couple questions. So when students, basically, do they have to pass the EOC to graduate?
They do not.
So Algebra 1, English 2, Bio, U.S. History, and Constitution, they don't have to pass to graduate? Okay.
No.
Secondly, do we, school report cards? Is there going to be a report card from last school year?
There will. It is to be released right now as of October 13th will be the release date. We will have another presentation on that.
Okay.
That data will be slightly different, and I'll explain it at that time. It's not a last year data, it's a cohort model, so it's
interesting.
Totally different.
Yeah.
But I'll explain all that, and the numbers will look different.
Okay. And so just remind, so EOC scores and this career readiness are part of the report card, right?
End-of-course exams are part of the ELA Math, Science, Social Studies component for the high school.
Right.
And then these career readiness assessments are only one portion of college and or career readiness.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mel Campbell.
Daniel, I looked at a couple of your bullet points there, and one of the points that is not there, I guess, about mathematics. EOCs, the algebra grades were better than statewide. When I looked at that chart, I saw where, yeah, there it is. Nice chart right there. I saw where the state, kind of almost bounced back this year from 2019. They were never great. This is South Carolina, and this is, but when we look at our numbers, and I see a big difference. We're 12 points ahead of the state, or 11.4 points ahead of the state in 2019, and 2022, we're only 5 points ahead. So to me, that's a problem.
It is, I agree.
Problem because when you look at the state and look at Beaufort County, we probably have had a little bit more resources to, vet the process there during the pandemic.
And one thing I know, in instructional services, what we're doing, there's a project now I know being completed where we're weaving in pre-algebraic concepts and earlier levels to long-term payment, not instant
We're
fix.
getting on that now, you're saying?
It's
Okay,
being,
that was
yes,
one of the
being
things
done
you
now.
mentioned as a comment. Later, I saw a comment there where you said.
Yeah, as we're working to
I was
accelerate
going to
that.
ask about that,
Yep,
but you
exactly.
answered. Okay, I'll rest my case for others.
Thank you. I have a question and a comment, as is so often the case here. My question is, I know a lot of kids take algebra in 7th or 8th grade, and generally speaking, they are the top performers mathematically. Their numbers, are they counted in this? Okay, because I had heard something that if you didn't take it in high school, And then the other thing is, I know a lot of the schools that we have that go through 8th grade, like the Catholic schools, like Bridges, they'll take the EOC in 8th, 7th, or 8th grade and then transfer in, and then we don't capture their EOC score. Is that right?
Yeah, so you're mixing accountability now with this. This is just 2021 data.
Right.
So, yes, the
My
students.
point is, I think we're getting dinged for things outside of our control.
No, those don't count against or for us if they transfer in. Or a student who takes, even in my case, I'm from Beaufort County, so I took an Algebra 1 class in 8th grade at a private school. I did not take an EOC, and it did not count for my high school credit.
Right.
But I came in with an Algebra 1. So in this model of accountability, I would not have to sit for Algebra 1. I would not take an EOC. I would have to be a student's not tested, and I would count as taking it, but it wouldn't count against anyone.
But
I just wouldn't have a positive score.
But Ms.
potentially.
Boatwright, to your point, though, one of the things that we do try to do is to push kids into our courses, right? And so even in middle school, we're trying to challenge our kids and push them academically, and then provide supports around that, right?
Yeah.
And that, when you do that, you know, I don't know if we were doing that in 2019, right? I wasn't here in 2019 when it shows 80, right?
Right.
But I also know that in 2019, we also still had kids who weren't getting an opportunity, right? And so what we're doing is increasing the opportunity for kids, but in the process of that, you know, your percent passing can sometimes take a hit until you get the supports in there, like Daniel and Ms. Stratos were talking, or Daniel talked about, but Ms. Stratos' team is working on in terms of the pre-algebraic components that are clearly evident, that's needed for many of our kids as we push them along. So
Yeah, I just wanna make sure we're not-
That's a good point you're making, and that's part of that.
I just want to make sure we're not cutting off part of the tail of our normal distribution there. Okay. My comment, which is not directed to anybody in particular, I'm just going to rail at the wind here. Why do we have this bronze, gold, silver? Oh, if you're bronze, you can be a welder. If you're that's just pejorative. I am predicting a renaissance in career and technical education. And I think that this sort of it makes people like, oh, I'm a welder, I'm bronze. No, I think that, and actually the reason this comes up is because I was reading an article about Michael Faraday, who was an apprentice at a bookbinder shop, born to poverty, and invented like most of modern society kind of on the side. My point is, I feel like categorizing people and then saying bronze, silver, gold, platinum, you could have a diamond student who could be president. It just seems to me, I know it's not our thing, but I hate that. And I want all the bronze students out there to know that you can be a welder and you can also be a physicist and you can also be the President of the United States. I think that's just something we need to get away from.
That's a good point as well. If we were, in another country, you would be a welder, right? But here in this great country, right, we have the opportunity to be what we want to be if we will ourselves and work hard to get there.
And even if you're going to say, okay, we think you would make a great welder, don't be like, because you're bronze. I just think that sort of like precious metal categorization system, and I know I'm taking up time, this is not relevant, this is not under the board's purview, but I just wanted to get that out there.
You have the prerequisite skills to qualify for that job. It does not mean you would be a very good welder. I mean, it says you have skills, and that's every job.
That's getting very
listed.
philosophical.
It does get very philosophical.
This is not something that we're
not going to
change.
We just hope to understand.
Okay. Dr. Quads?
Thank you, Daniel. Several maybe comments. First, to Tricia Fidrich's question that the EOC, not passing the EOC does not necessarily keep a child, back from graduating from high school. However, I think the parents out here really need to realize that the EOC test score does count 20% of that child's grade. And so that's, huge in terms of what kind of grade ultimately that child is going to get for that EOC course. What is within our purview of the board is evaluating the performance of our superintendent. Now, we don't do that publicly, but with details, we may have those discussions in executive session and ultimately produce a document that is released to the public. So Dr. Rodriguez has already brought out tonight that he started in 2019, July of 2019. So the 2019 scores here were not while he was in our employment. Those are prior to his employment. Within 8 months of his arrival, we were in the midst of this pandemic. The pandemic basically shut everything down in schools and in the community throughout South Carolina and nationwide in March of 2020. So I'm pleasantly surprised. We all know that this pandemic has taken a great toll on student achievement, certainly for our students, whether they are in elementary school, middle school, or high school, the schools that we deal with. And it's going to take years to dig back out of this hole, which is unfortunate for these children. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done, but I'm glad to see that in some aspects, yes, we are making progress, and I personally think that we need to thank our superintendent for his leadership, and also to our teachers for all that they've done to make this happen. It has certainly not been easy, and we all know that from our experiences, whether we have students in our schools at the schools over the last few years or not. So thank you, Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Tina, I was going to say something very similar. I'm sorry if this is slightly off topic. Just entertain me for a moment. The 2.0 program that is being put forth to help some of our students to catch up with that learning loss. I just wanted to thank everybody for their hard work on that program. I think that I've gotten some information on it from our elementary schools in Bluffton, and I just wanted to thank the teachers, the administration, and everybody who's been working really hard to put that together. I think that's going to assist us long-term in helping these students. They're getting, 2 or more days a week, additional support for an hour plus after school, and I just think that's going to be phenomenal. A lot of these kids need it, and I wanted to thank you personally for your hard work on that. Thank you.
Thank you, and honestly, no conversation about, how we're doing is, really complete without thanking our teachers, our assistants in classrooms, every one of our staff within our buildings, because it's always a team effort to make things happen for kids. So, thank you all.
Mr. Smith.
Just to lean to in the direction that Dr. Wineski was just speaking about. Yes, I too would have to agree in terms of even the after-school programs that the district has helped in partnership with the community. Even some parents have said that they have seen the difference in the growth in their children from these programs, and that they're hoping that these programs continue because they see the growth in their kids that some of them have said that they didn't expect to see in terms of the time that they have been able to see them. And I think that is a wonderful thing to have people say that and to be confident and to speak that. So I'm looking forward to seeing those comments match our scores here real soon. And that's marvelous, and I give the kudos to Dr. Rodriguez and his staff for doing that, and for everyone who took place into making those things and those relationships happen. But also, in terms of some of these scores, I would also I'm looking forward to seeing these scores broke down to sex, gender, and race as well, just to understand where are some of our troublesome pockets are, or where are some of our pockets that need more work than others, so that we can more identify where we need to focus on to getting more support, or more basically getting more support in those areas that we may need them. I think that would be something good too. And lastly, please don't take this personal in any different way, but when we said that we are working on the achievement gap, or we're working on different things, I look forward to these kids from Beaufort County. I go to different places, I hear different people talk about different things. There was a young lady just a couple of nights ago, well, anybody who watched basketball, she's from right there, Columbia, South Carolina, and she won the WNBA. And I said, and you may say, William, why you say that? I say that in terms of competing international or competing anywhere in this country. Beaufort County is not the only county that went under the pandemic, but we still have to compete in terms of test scores and fighting to get our students where we really want them at, and in terms of having them being polished as any other district or as anyone else in this nation, because the tragedy just didn't happen in Beaufort, it happened across the country. And so we're saying that I definitely appreciate the superintendent and their staff, but we still have to stay focused, because Tiger Woods said when he wins the PGA Tour, he celebrates until night until 12 a.m. After the next day, he go back swinging like he didn't win it. So I say that to say that we still have to stay focused, and yeah, we must celebrate our wins, but we have to make sure that we're continuously looking forward to putting our resources where they may need to be put, and also continue to analyze and look at data and to see it for what it is. And I thank them for bringing the correct data, continuously letting us know where we're at. I appreciate that. But I just want us to understand that this national tragedy happened across America, and I look for our kids to compete everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item for us, Ms. Crosby and Ms. Mattson, will be the Esser update. Go ahead.
Good evening, Chairman Stripinger and Board. You received the regular report for Esser. This was a 1-month expenditure report last month that covered 2 for the summer. And first, we can say that Esser 1 has been totally expended in August, and so it's complete. So we are down from 5 down to 2, still big ones, but working off on that. So we were glad to see that move through there. We have the Esser 2. We have another 13 months of it, and then you show expenditures of $554,000. We still have remaining $11,600, or almost $700. We do expect a large December payment of recruitment and retention stipends of over $6 million, so that will immediately reduce mid-year. You could see that we have in the last month built in instructional materials, $261,000, paying our master teachers that are assigned to our high poverty and high need schools, where that is a monthly expense, and then also now have our high school instructional coaches in place to support the teachers on those schools. So you're seeing our staffing has now been fully staffed, except for I think 1 position, which is a good thing. In Esser 3, of course, we have 25 months remaining. 1.7 million were spent of Esser 3. We still have 36 million with a little over 2 years left. You can see our largest area of spending was in the professional development, which would make sense because of all the summer programs and things for teachers. Also instructional materials, online software renewals beginning of the year. Also our Low Country Virtual Learning Program, part of that contract was paid. And then also our after-school partnerships, and that's the not just the after-school programs that are happening in the school building, that's the partnerships with our community for the monthly expenditure. We do have out to our schools They're working on their after-school plans and submitting those. We have allocated $1.3 million out to schools for the year for their after-school program, and they are evaluating their last year's program and submitting evaluations, as well as working on their new budgets for that. So we expect them to, we'll see after-school program expenditures come up soon. Any questions?
Ms. Boatright.
I can't believe I'm the first one with a question. Okay, can you explain, what's the professional development, the 532? Do you have any other information on that?
It was partly of the contract for Summer Institute.
And that was through the Darden, is that the Darden program, or is
No.
that something different?
No.
Okay.
That's the Summer Institute where we have
All of our teachers come in.
come and other employees that come and participate in it, and they have all sorts of different types of trainings.
Okay.
Academic and all sorts.
And it's also going to be for some contracts for the software implementations that we have to get teachers trained up and,
Okay.
retrained and those kinds of things. It's almost a yearly kind of expense through the summer there, so.
And then, sorry, can I have one more question? I've been granted one more question. The master teachers, you said, are they in all the schools or they're just in certain schools? And what's the criteria for the certain schools that they're in? You had to know this was coming.
Dr. Stratos, I'm sorry, Ms. Walton.
Good afternoon again. Master teachers are in the UVA schools, and those are the schools that that Dr. Rodriguez and the EDs are working with for student achievement.
You said the UVA schools, that's the Darden school?
That's it.
Yes.
Yep.
There's 4 schools in the UVA school?
There are 4 schools in the UVA project. Yes.
And there's 119,000, is that annual cost? That can't be monthly.
That would be annual cost. Or is that for 3 years?
There is 8 or 9 of them, so there's more than one, and that is the monthly cost of their salaries.
So there's 9 teachers, so there's teachers in addition to the UVA schools?
Say that one more time.
Mel, help me out here with the math. 4 UVA schools, but 9 master teachers, so there have to be roughly 5 other schools included in that master teacher list?
Our original plan was to have 2 master teachers in each building.
Okay, so there's 2 master teachers per UVA school.
Yes.
He's giving me the math. 2.2 master teachers at each school, okay. That does sound expensive.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You may not have the answer to this question right now, and it's kind of nuanced. So with the 2.0 program, my understanding is that transportation is provided for the majority of those students that are participating in that, and I see that allocated here in the after-school program. My question is some of those students that are eligible for that, there's a restriction on bus usage within like 1.5 miles of a school, is that correct? So students who live within, so this is kind of like a Robert question and a y'all question. So my question is that those 2.0 students that we have money allocated for that do not qualify for transportation services, is there going to be a crossing guard at those neighborhoods? And are we paying for the crossing guard services on those days of the week? I'm just concerned about those kids that are traveling from their neighborhood across Buckwalter Parkway or other schools where that might be applicable to.
I can look into that.
Okay.
I don't know that.
I didn't know if anybody
Yeah.
had the answer to that, but
Yeah.
that is like one little gap that I think we need to address and potentially provide safety for those kids traveling by foot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mel Campbell.
I'm concerned with the rate of spending in terms of Esser 3. And, the urgency of the situation, the pandemic is gone, but the effects of it is still evident. And I think we started with, what, $52 million or $51 million in Esser 3, and we've spent, and that's, well, how many years have we had it? 2?
1.
1 year. We spent about a third of it, yeah, a little bit less than that. But anyway, I'm concerned with how we gonna spend the rest, because some of the stuff we spent it on, we're not gonna duplicate. And how we gonna spend the rest, and are there innovations, are there programs put in place to, for example, after-school programs? I was at a school the other day, the leader of the school said he got $46,000, and that was more than enough. I can't, hey, I taught school years ago, decades ago, and I had an after-school program in which we spent $47,000, and there was no pandemic.
Right.
And it was just me with maybe about 30, 40 kids. But we did have a bus, which he told me he didn't need a bus. Well, that's a big I don't need that he might need. But I'm concerned with how we gonna take this money and use it to change those numbers I saw. And I'm not sure getting master teachers in every building is the answer. Because again, that's a process that takes time to create the urgency that we have. We have urgencies, and students need immediate interventions. And I don't see the plan on that, and we've been talking about it for months. I want to see a plan where you're doing some things to upgrade the education of those children who were left behind during the pandemic. That's not an answer for you. That's not a question for you, Tanya. I'm
Okay.
sorry. That's a question for all
Right.
of the above.
Well, that's a great segue into taking that deeper dive in the during the finance committee meeting. And so that's the whole purpose of that recommendation, is to really be able to see those activities in whole and what expenses we've actually, Ms. Mattson has actually worked on a cash flow for the next 24 months, so that you can actually see what expenses we do project on a monthly basis. Most of the expenditures within this grant, or these grants, are multi-year expenditures. There are some, like construction, the bottle filler stations, the HVAC units, that are one-time expenses that have not come yet, as well as the recruiting and retention stipends, which we're going to see about $6 million worth of expenditures in December. So there are a number of a few one-time things, but most of them are continuous, and we'll spell that out for you and for the committee, and then bring that to the full board.
Mr. Earl Campbell?
Point of clarification. I mean, I believe Dr. Stratos was trying to respond to Mr. Campbell as well. So before he asked his question, I would ask that we would allow her to have that opportunity to respond.
Only one of us can run this meeting, Mr. Smith.
Well, and that's why respectfully I asked you as a chairman if you didn't mind for her to
Well, let's make let Earl ask his question, and then if you want to respond, Dr. Stratus, respond.
Tonight I've heard several discussion about student achievement and how can we do that. Ms. Mona Lisa Dixon and Dawn Doggett did it at the elementary school and the middle school, so it can be done. But you need partnership with parents, and that's the reason why those schools achieve. That was the best middle school in the district at one time. So it can be done. You don't need a magic bullet. And a lot of our students, the parents don't help them. They don't even come to the school. So until we can do that, you're not going to see any changes. I'm telling you from what I know. Mona Lisa Dixon and Dawn Doggett did it, and it can be done.
Did you want to?
So just to give a few points to build on the ESSER opportunities that we're providing. In our extended learning model, we are putting in place an additional software that's very prescriptive for our students. That'll start in about 2 more weeks for our students. The training took place last Friday, and that's going to be onboarded. To speak to Mr. Campbell, we're onboarding our parent liaisons for training, because that has been a gap area. And you're absolutely on point, because there's 3 pillars for academic achievement for our students, and our parent liaisons have to be part of it. That building that community sense. So I just want to put, we recognize with Esser that everything's in phases. We have put in instructional components first. Our next layers have been behavior realigning that, obviously, with student services. And now we're going to be reaching out even more so to the community. We started a year ago. I have to speak for all the educators and people within the district. They have picked up a lot of weight and continue to push forward. So it's a collective effort. Mr. Campbell's correct. There's an urgency. Our kids are in the ER. But we do have a plan, and we are acting upon it. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Right here.
Okay. Mr. Smith.
First off, I'd like to, let me start off by Mrs. Boatwright asked a question in terms of professional development, and I believe that was, just wanted to bring some attention to that. I think that question was asked in the Finance Committee meeting, if I'm correct, and I think it was also about training and teachers going to different conferences to get some training too. So that was definitely explained more in detail in the Finance Committee, because I want to say I believe it could have been the Colonel Guy or something who spoke to that, or who had asked that question or something, and when we were getting the actual report on that right there. But more so, the topic at hand that we're discussing. I do share some of the, I do share some of the same concerns of us putting our money where our mouth is, but in terms of not just staff doing it, it has to start with the board too. And the one, and I've said this a couple of times. The problem is we have a 3-pronged problem, and to me, what that 3-pronged problem is that, as Mr. Campbell stated with with Doggett and Mona Lisa Dixon, and I throw in it with Dr. Davis, is that they all had pure support from their board members. Their board members were actively engaged in their school and what their school had going on with the morale. So it's not a one size fit all. It's just this is how it's going to get. It has to do with the morale of the district and the morale of the school. And that's a big part of it, because in order to believe it, you have to be able. In order to achieve it, you have to believe it. You have to believe that you can make a difference, and that you do have someone teaching you who do care about you, and who's going to push you until the wheels fall off. And you have to be, as a kid, you have to be able to take that unconditional. You have to be able to take that and stand that unconditional love, knowing that that person care about you. So we're saying that. What are you saying, Mrs. Smith? That so many times in this district as well, and this is something that's been going on, where you have board members do one side of it, you have the district do one side of it, and then you have the administration do one side of it, until we all get on the same page collectively, and we're all working at hand, and we're high-fiving, and we're supporting each other, and we're actively engaged with each other, and everything is positive, and we all aiming for the same goal, but not in different ways, then this is going to happen. Like Mr. Campbell said, yeah, it can happen, but I'm telling you, I've given you, he's given you some schools, but I've also given you the schools of what they've done in the blueprint. When you look at it, Dale, Mark Carmel, and they're involved together. Mr. Campbell involved together. St. Helena, when they were doing it, Michael Rivers was involved together. So I say to not just to this district, but to my colleagues, and they wonder why sometimes that some of us are asking questions, or it's a relationships. Relationships are everything. We have to go back to the basics of relationship with the community members.
Mr. Smith, I'll remind you, we're talking about an Esser update.
I'm talking exactly about the Esser update and stuff that was said tonight, in terms of a couple of principles and different things that was named. And I'll go ahead and wrap it up by saying this. In terms of putting finances where it needs to be go, we might have to do things a little differently. We might have to have community nights because the morale in certain schools are not high. But yet, heck, let's look at tonight. We took a vote tonight. And I spoke about the Band-Aid at St. Helena Elementary School. I spoke about what was said to the community and what was voted upon tonight. It was two different things. That's morale. So I ain't got to say no more. Until we get the morale up on St. Helena and different communities, that way we know that these learning gaps are happening at, then it's going to be there because we're going to keep turning the blind eye to it. And I appreciate Dr. Scratos and those for their staff for the measurements that in the ways that they have taken to get some of these programs in these schools to try. But heck, they can't do it by themselves. We got to do some of it too and take ownership of it as well. Point blank, period.
I think we're done with the Esser update. Okay. Board business, we're now down to, thank you, Superintendent, for your report. Now we're down to board business action. We have discussion and possible vote on the board's legislative proposal submitted to the School Board Association, and then I believe we also pulled off September 9th work session meeting minutes, so let's do the discussion first.
Thank you, Chairman Strippinger. So the discussion and possible vote on our board's legislative proposal submitted to SCSBA. There are 3 documents in your file tonight in board docs. The Beaufort County Board of Education voted to submit a proposed new resolution to the South Carolina School Boards Association for their 2023 legislative resolutions, and we did that back in June. And then the South Carolina School Boards Association, their legislative committee, and ultimately their board of directors discussed our proposal, and ultimately they decided not to advance it forward through the South Carolina School Boards Association. Their expressed concerns regarding what some could perceive as school board support for non-certified teachers in the classroom and questions surrounding school accreditation requirements. Our resolution was to afford our traditional public schools the same flexibility that the charter schools have, where we could employ up to 25% of our entire teaching staff that was non-certified. That was the whole idea because of obviously the teacher shortage. So we still have the opportunity to advance our resolution if we want to, but now it has to be done at the floor of the delegate assembly in December. And Debbie Elmore outlines how this can be done. We would first need to have a vote here to say, yes, we want to still bring our resolution forward, and that would be just by majority vote. And the School Boards Association was very kind, and they suggested rewording of our resolution, and so we could vote to either, if we want to continue it forward and use their resolution, then ultimately we will try to do that at the delegate assembly, and I would recontact Debbie Elmore because she said she'd assist with that, and we would, at the delegate assembly, we would need 2/3 of those present and voting delegates would need to approve our resolution. So, is there a motion from the board to continue bringing our resolution forward with the proposed new wording to the delegate assembly floor.
I move that we continue moving forward by bringing the proposed changes to the resolution to the floor of the delegation.
Dr. Wisniewski, second.
I think, again, that the purpose of our resolution was to kind of even the playing field, so to speak. We are all in public education looking for teachers from the same pool, right? We're all in the pool isn't overflowing. So this resolution would afford us the same opportunities that are afforded charter schools in terms of the teachers. Also, in this resolution that we're proposing, it says all teachers in core subjects, core areas will be highly qualified as defined in the Act. So
That's actually, let me just clarify,
Okay,
that's what we did
that's what
submit,
we did
and
submit.
they
This is the
suggested
new
this
one.
rewording, so.
Okay.
But
Right.
the whole idea is to have certified teachers in classrooms, if at all possible. This is
Possible,
really to be flexible with our teacher shortage.
Dr. Wisniewski?
I just had one suggestion, take it for what it's worth. Like to Kathy's point of that we're all in public education, I think that we should also put in there just to kind of drive that message home. I think we should add, since we have traditional public schools being afforded the same flexibility as public charter schools. I think we should put that in there if we're going to.
It's in there.
It doesn't. The one I'm looking at doesn't have that.
No, it's not that one.
Not that one, the other one, the new one.
that's
That's the one that we proposed in June.
That one didn't pass.
The one that
Muster,
says at the
apparently.
top, proposed
It says
new
proposed new
resolution.
That's the
This is
one.
the new one.
This one, this is the proposed new
Yeah.
resolution.
I just think we should add that in there because that's the whole point that we're trying to drive home. We're going for the same pool of teachers. We're all public schools, so we should be under the same set of rules and playing field.
So make an amendment.
So I would like to make a motion to amend that, or to add public in front of charter schools.
Seconded.
Okay. Discussion on the amendment?
Oh,
Yes.
on the amendment, no. I have a discussion on the
All
original
right.
motion.
All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye or aye?
Oh, it's been unanimous.
No, Mr. Smith?
Oh, yes, it is.
Okay, that is unanimous. Now, we have an amended motion on the floor. Ms. Boatright.
Thank you. So I am somewhat perplexed by the SCBA's, what is it, the SBA's legislative process. I'm new to the legislative process. We saw something last year that had all their things that they have brought forward and the dates that they had put them in. There's some sort of a book. Do you know what I'm talking about? What's that called?
I think they call it their delegate assembly.
Okay,
Excuse me, I should.
so there's some sort of delegate assembly, and they basically compile recommendations, correct me when I'm wrong, from all over the state, from different counties, pick out the ones they want to bring to the state legislature in some sort of a process, right? Some sort of an advocacy process?
Can I respond?
Please.
Okay. So what happens, so each year, the SCSBA, the South Carolina School Boards Association, queries all the
Yep.
school boards in the state, which is roughly 80 of us, and asking them, do they have any new legislation
Right.
that they would like the South Carolina School Boards Association to determine whether they'd like to bring it forward in the South Carolina School Boards Association legislative resolutions for the upcoming legislative session, which now would be 2023.
Okay,
So that's what we did.
right.
So, but they decided, it goes through their legislative committee, and then their board of directors, and initially, they did accept it, actually. Debbie Elmore told me that over the phone. But then they had their reservations about it, so they decided they wouldn't advance it, but by that time, I gather they had rewritten it. And so we can advance it. So yes, before the legislative, it's a conference and assembly that occurs every December that
Right.
the South Carolina School Board Association
But it's just for the South Carolina
hosts.
School Board. They host it.
They host it. And they published this handbook, I think roughly in October, that has all the resolutions that are basically current. So ours would not be in the handbook because they haven't accepted it, okay? So at the assembly, per their letter, we can bring it forward at that time, provided, I guess, we provide it to the president of the SCSBA in advance, okay? And then the assembly, through the delegates, and we will have representation there, it has to be a 2/3 majority to be accepted. So then the South Carolina School Board Association has to include it.
Okay, so my question is basically this, because this is starting to sound like a Monty Python skit, right?
Okay.
So basically, we're putting a lot of effort to get something in this SCSBA handbook to take to some sort of delegate process. But as I recall, when I looked at their handbook, they did not seem particularly effective at actually getting anything done. And I'm just wondering, I don't care if we go through, are there other ways we could do it? Why does it have to go to the SCSBA? Because they had things in there that were like 13, 15, 20 years they've been sitting in that handbook. Why don't we just all write letters to our legislatures, or, I don't know, it just seems like this is it's a long run for a short slide, and I don't know.
Well, that is not the only way that this could be moved forward. But the SCSBA, we are members. We have a $50,000 membership annually, as our board does, and so we should utilize them. And they do.
Are they effective?
That's a good question. That's why I will say we also
All
have
right, I think we're getting off topic.
our private lobbyists.
Well, exactly.
We're not going to evaluate the School Board Association until it's time to renew.
No, I'm not, but I'm saying I'm
dues.
questioning
That's
whether or
where
not
I'm
this will be the most effective use of our legislative firepower, so to speak.
Okay.
I think, like, when we did talk about this last time, that was something that I mentioned, that we should put this on our legislative committee agenda to also add to our legislative priorities that we petition our own delegation.
I do think putting Dr. Wifneski in charge of this would be a lot more effective than putting the SCSBA in charge of it, so I would vote for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Well, Mrs. Boatwright, if it makes you feel any better, I think that our board does have a great relationship with the SBA. I think that they're pretty close. I think that they're probably going to accept it 9 times out of 10 because of our relationship with the SBA. I think, so let me just make you feel, I'm going to tell you that, make you feel good.
Okay.
Well, all the delegates vote, right?
Yes.
And you have to get
And we have
2/3 of the delegates to
Right.
approve it.
And the number of delegates each school board has is based on your student population in your
Right.
district.
All right, so we're going to put it forward, and it's going to be put to a vote by all the delegates. All right.
Earl has his.
Earl? I'm sorry, Mr. Campbell?
I was just going to say that the school board associations have been effective in some of the stuff but they can do so much. The problem is you have a lot of representatives up in Columbia that don't want to change, and all they do is talk about teacher shortage and all this, but they don't want to change. You have other states that have ex-military teachers in their schools, but South Carolina's talk about it, but they don't want to change change their position. So we only got one group to fight for us, and that's the South Carolina School Board Association. And also, we used to be a member of the National School Board Association, but we're not anymore. They're another group that fight for public education. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
And also, I was going to say, I believe that it was said to an agenda setting. I think that the reason why they were looking at possibly not supporting it, because I think that it was said that they were possibly looking at it. I think Dr. Rodriguez said that they were talking about it up in their meeting about possibly looking at doing something a little differently. Maybe Dr. Rodriguez can give us a little insight on that in terms of what he said at the agenda setting was why they might kind of pull back on it.
Let's not speculate, let's just vote.
Yeah.
I mean, it
No,
wasn't-
I know what
it
you're
was-
saying.
It was good information.
I was in that meeting, I heard the same thing. It's very interesting, but I don't think that's a fact. I think that was speculation. So, Mr. Campbell, Mel Campbell.
I mean, this is a process. This is a process that we've been using as long as we're members of this association. And, you know, nothing is foolproof. And if you've been in South Carolina for 1 year, you understand the red tape that you have to do to change what's been standard. And that's going to happen again. There's no likelihood that even if we circumvent this direct process that they've sent back to us, that we're going to get anything done. Because still the buck stops at the legislature, and South Carolina's state legislature have always been the same in terms of standards. They remain, very allegiant to the standards. And yeah, this initiative that we've created might create a thought process that might create some change later on, but we need to go through with this process. And then if we have to go elsewhere, like our local legislature, then do that too. But we need to go through with the process just to open the eyes of some of the other districts who may not have thought of this.
All right. Now, I would just suggest that we don't close any doors because you never know which door the prize is behind. So, work them all. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Middleton, aye.
Colonel Guyer?
No.
No.
Colonel Guyer is a no,
Vote right's a no.
and a vote right is a no.
It's a silly place.
All right, that takes
Chairman
us,
Stribinger, can I just ask you a question? Would you like, so next steps, would you like to write the letter to Debbie Elmore about the vote per this letter, or would you like me to do it as the legislative committee chair? It doesn't matter at all.
I think you'd be better,
Okay, all right, I'll be happy
because
to do
your
it.
heart's in it.
Thank you.
All right, we have the item removed from the consent agenda. Yes, ma'am.
I move that we approve the September 9th, 2022 Board Work Session Meeting Minutes.
Second.
Second by Dr. Wisniewski. Discussion.
Yeah, vote.
Okay. All those in favor?
Middleton, aye.
Guyer, aye.
All right. All those opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
Quads abstain. That's why I'm abstaining, because I wasn't at the meeting.
I'm sorry, you abstained?
I abstain.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Quads abstains.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? There's no
Aye.
discussion.
Middleton, aye.
Guyer, aye.
Okay, that's unanimous also. Future agenda topics. Okay, announcements. Oh, Dr. Rodriguez?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to just make an announcement. This month is designated as National Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th to October 15th. And for our Hispanic community, just to share with them, este mes está designado como el Mes Nacional de la Herencia Hispana, del 15 de septiembre al 15 de octubre. We will have many different events happening at our different school sites. I know that our communications team will be covering some of the events that are out there as well. So you'll be able to see some of that. And if you look on our webpage, there is a banner up there that talks about and celebrates this month.
Thank you.
Awesome. I do too. Yeah, I do too. I was going to bring that. I was going to bring that out too. Yeah.
Okay. Second public comments, anything? Yes, ma'am?
You have a phone call. Hello, David, I'm calling you for public comments. If you need to state your first and last name, and remember, you have 3 minutes to speak. Are you ready? Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, this is David Cook. I just wanted to finish up everything from earlier. Apologize for going over my time. The comments that I wanted to make now is to respond to a board comment in regards to some of the programs. If you really want parents to come to schools to work with their kids or work with them at home, you've got to consider engaging in them a little bit more and maybe perhaps educating them on what their actual rights are as far as education goes. Not many parents understand the protection of pupils' rights. I think having a little parental education there would be very successful in the classroom with their students. One, if you really want successful students, do what you can to change or modify the way SEL content is being taught and have teachers assigned it to be worked on with parents. Teachers always say we want kids to have soft skills, but the reality is they're destroying the morale of the students. Find an alternate way for SEL. And I have to ask, why is a Spanish teacher giving kids grades based on SEL activities? So at this time, I believe legislation is possibly being written to eliminate the use of MTSS programs. If you want the kids to excel in math, please teach them math, not culturally responsive math, not woke math. Stop telling them how they should feel about other students because of the color of their skin. Children are hearing things without parental consent from teachers who are going off script. I'm asking because children need to be taught how to think, not what to think. The lessons in social emotional learning are absolutely destabilizing the emotional horizon of the children in our schools. They're doing the exact opposite for which they were intended. Children are inherently good and they're born without hate. But when you teach children that the kid across the classroom might be treated better because of the color of his skin and might get more things because of the color of his skin, not only are you teaching the children victimhood, but you're also teaching them to be hateful of people that have a different color skin. Teaching children that our country is inherently racist is the practice of teaching critical race theory. Legislation has been passed declaring the teaching of this material violates the budget proviso and state funding can be withheld for these violations. You're teaching them the wrong things. I know the teachers don't decide the curriculum, and they're not at fault for this. Critical race theory is in our schools. Take a look at the books like Stamped, The Hate You Give, Anti-Racist Baby, which is actually in an elementary school. Titles that are in all of our school libraries. And in regards to classroom libraries, from what I understand, in Hilton Island Elementary, almost every classroom has its own library. Why don't we require the media specialist to catalog all the books in the classroom libraries? Let's give the teachers a break with this. I'm estimating there are anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 books just in Hilton Island Elementary IB classrooms that are not cataloged, and I'm sure there are books that contain material that's inappropriate if read to or read by an elementary school age child.
I'm sorry, your time is up, sir. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Chairman Strebinger? So moved.
I'm sorry, did that second? It was there?
Doesn't need a second.
The second before the first.
We've gotten all our work done. We're getting pretty good at this. Thanks. We're adjourned.